Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of April 12th, 2022 to order at 5:31 p.m. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the draft minutes of March 22, 2022 Finance meeting?
I move approval.
Motion made by Alder Wheeler. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Public appearances, non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anybody in chambers. Anybody on Zoom, Scott? All right. No public appearances. Moving on to the next item, Finance Director Report. Treasurer's Report as of December 31st, 2021, updated after final audit fieldwork. I'll turn that over to our Treasurer, Director of Finance, Misty Dodge.
Thank you. So I reported last time that the auditors had been out, and we have, our record should be good. However, there still might be some tweaks between the report that I provided and the final audit report. We are still on schedule for you to get that final audit presentation from the auditors, the second meeting in May. So hopefully we'll have that all wrapped up then. But wanted to provide you, I guess, some near final information, because I know that's a lot of people that are interested in what the financial looked like as of 2021. So in general, we did have a surplus for the year that was driven mostly by the building permit and related fees. Our construction activity remained strong, even with COVID, and so that revenue was higher. And then on the expense side, we had quite a few staff vacancies that resulted in some pretty significant expenses less than budget, as well as a lot of projects that had to get carried over into 2022. So those projects also contributed towards our surplus as of the end of 21, but we'll spend it in 22. There is one somewhat big number that's still outstanding, is the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund. So I noted that on the balance sheet, just to note that those numbers will change. I do have the information at this point that I can wrap that up, but I hadn't at the time that this was put together. I didn't want to hold it up over that number. So that is still outstanding there too. So if we take questions before I go to the rest of my report.
Yeah, I think mine is more of a comment. I'd like to commend the city for an outstanding job, at least on the expenditure side, in a positive to budget on all the categories. That's outstanding. With the salaries, is that something that carries over and we're allowed to place that into the same bucket for 2022? Or does it go into the general fund? How does that work?
So it stays within the general fund, but it goes to the fund balance. So one of the key pieces that we'll hone in on with the audit presentation and with our financial policies is what our fund balance amounts should be. So these surpluses, for the most part, go into that fund balance calculation, exception, of course, being the transfer that we budget for the year after, and then the carryovers.
Okay, very good. Additional? Go ahead, Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. I'm curious, I just don't recall off the top of my head what the amount that we carried over was. Like, is it a significant amount of that percentage? Is it 5%? It just seems like we're farther under budget than we typically are in a given year, right? I mean, I guess I just don't recall. I don't recall quite what it was last year, but it seems quite low in terms of how far under budget we are.
So I would say it's in the ballpark of what we've been in recent years, because we have had such strong building permit activity is really the bulk of the reason why our revenues are driven. And then staffing has been a pretty hard thing for us to keep up on. And we always budget for full staff because we hope that staff will all stay on, but that hasn't been the case. I should have on here, I guess I don't know how much of it. So on page 44, the top number that's highlighted, the 402,000, carryovers is included in that number, so it's something less than that. I just don't remember the specifics.
No, that's really good to know. Okay, Thank you.
Additional questions, discussion? You may proceed.
Yeah. While we're talking about audit report, we did get notification in recent weeks that the 2020 audit report qualified for the Certificate of Achievement. I was getting a little nervous because we hadn't gotten word yet, but we did hear. It sounds like they're backed up just like the rest of the world is. So that was good. Strong kudos to the finance team, especially Carrie Miller, who does a lot of the reporting that's in there too. And then the ARPA reporting guidelines were released on April 1st. We have our first report due April 30th, which includes activity through March 31st. So we're trying to pull all of that information together and get that submitted. And then CIP worksheets were due yesterday. I want to give you guys a heads up that there are going to be a lot of changes, I suspect, between the additional projects that we know are coming through with the various grant funding sources, the ARPA money, the TID closure money. A lot of that was planned to be spent on capital. And then also a lot of prices are coming in much more than what we thought. So a lot of those projects are going to have to be increased for the current market. So I suspect there'll be even more changes from last year's adopted version to this version that you guys see next. I don't know specifics yet, because again, those worksheets were just due yesterday, but be ready for lots of changes. That is it.
Very good. Is there additional questions? Alder Gerhart, go ahead.
Thanks. I acknowledge you for, I know there were emails exchanged, but congratulations on your award for you into the department. How many years in a row have you all received that award?
So this, I believe, will be our 5th year in a row that we got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. I echo the same. Thank you. Moving on to review of bills under item 5A. Detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above for the period of March 16th through the 31st, 2022, totaling $2,146,334,000.94. Questions? Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. So I'm looking at page 46 of the packet, page 2 of this report. And just the MPSIS payment. So Sun Prairie kind of administers that, and then we pay our share to Sun Prairie. Is that how that works every year?
Exactly. So it's a consortium of, I want to say, 5 municipalities. How the administrative responsibilities were divvied up is Sun Prairie acts as basically fiscal administrator, so they handle all of the bills, and the city of Fitchburg handles all the employment. So the employees that are there for MPSIS are city of Fitchburg employees, and we bill that cost back to MPSIS. So there's a little bit of going back and forth, but this is our share of the overall costs of MPSIS.
Awesome. And then another question on that page, Intradyne, that company, that name just does not sound familiar to me. It's obviously some sort of archiving tool. Is that something to do with OnBase or just not, doesn't ring a bell?
So it is an IT software. I want to
Okay.
say it's email archiving, but I will get back to you and let you know. I'll get back to you and let you know.
Okay.
It may have gone through council as a pre-approval, but it also, if it's a recurring software, that's an exception in the ordinance.
Oh, we
So,
may not have seen it before.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Very good. Additional questions? Hearing none, moving on to item 5B, detailed review of all checks issued. Checks 123,263 through 123,329 for the period of March 16th through the 31st, 2022, totaling $2,268,052.46. Questions from the, and discussion from the committee? Go ahead, Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. So I noticed quite a lot of pay-go. Is that a coincidence or is that a typical March expense, right?
So all of our pay-go bonds have semi-annual payments on April 1st and October 1st.
Okay.
So those are all of the payments that are due for all of the bonds.
Okay. Additional questions? Hearing none, we will move on to 5C, detailed review of ACH payments for $10,000 and above for the period of March 1st through the 31st, 2022, totaling $452,577.23. Questions, discussions from the committee? Hearing none, moving on to item 5D, detailed review of all ACH payments for March 1st through the 31st, 2022, totaling $461,183.33. Questions from the committee? Hearing none. 5E, detailed review of P-card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending March 7th, 2022, totaling $157,277.95. Questions? Discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to 5F, review of P-card transactions for the cycle ending March 7th, 2022, for a total of dollar amount of $277,820.32. Questions? Discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to action items. 6A, do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-42-22, approving new playground and swing set structures for McCall Fahey Fields Park?
I move approval.
Approval made by Alder Gerhart. Discussion? Or no, I'm sorry, we'll move on to Misty to Scott. Scott, you have the floor.
Thank you, Randy. This is a new playground structure scheduled for Fahey Fields Park. We did do an RFP. We received 7 proposals. And then what I did is I conducted a neighborhood survey with those 7 proposals. And we ended up with proposal number 7, which was the highest vote getter, which was 44 points. And then the Park Commission did reaffirm the neighborhood's rating and are recommending the Northland Recreational Play Power LTE Farmington Incorporated proposal.
Very good. Questions, discussion from the committee? All right, hearing none, place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next action item, 6B. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-43-22, approving new playground and swing set structures for Hillside Heights Park?
I move approval.
Motion for approval made by Alder Wheeler. And Scott, and you will speak to this one as well, correct?
Yes, we went through the same process, a little bit different with this structure. This is a replacement structure, which the original one was installed in the 90s, 1990. And actually we did the same process, had 7 proposals. We did have a tie in regards to votes received, but the way that we did the voting is one proposal received 5 first place votes and another proposal received 4. So staff recommended the proposal that did receive the 5 first place votes, and actually the Park Commission did recommend that, which is proposal 2, option 2, from, let's see who the vendor is here, from Landscape Structures is what's being recommended.
Very good. Questions, discussion from the committee? Yes, Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. Scott, I'm curious, when you replace a playground, are you able to ever repurpose or sell some of that old equipment, or is that pretty much all, you have to toss it?
Yeah, it's pretty much out of date. The big thing is ADA and consumer safety products safety standards. So those are really out of date. So actually it's recommended to remove it and destroy it, just because you don't want someone else to find it or place it out in the public, that's for sure.
That makes sense. And then, do these newer playgrounds, do they typically have a longer lifespan? Because like that one lasted, 30 years? So, or do these new ones typically have a 30-year lifespan?
Yeah, about 25, 30, yep. It really, at the end of the day, the structure itself withstands the time. It's more that the safety standards and those kinds of things are updated and changed. Certainly the equipment does get wore out, but it's really more keeping up with safety standards and those kinds of things.
Thanks.
Very good. Additional questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next action item, which is 6C. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-51-22, Fact TV Head End Tightrope Replacement Project?
I move approval.
Motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. And I'm guessing, Jeremy, you're going to speak to this resolution. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This replacement is basically coming about every 5 years now. What we're replacing is the brains of the operation of Fact TV. This piece of equipment not only controls when our programming airs, it records the meetings, it houses the meetings, it makes our meetings broadcast out for streaming, video on demand. It is everything. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you think of that, and running for 5 years, it's a workhorse for sure. We came in under budget for this, which is good given the circumstances with everything going up. The biggest cost in this, not only is the controlling unit, but is the storage space. And our files continue to get bigger as the quality gets better. When I first came here and we put in our first system, it was SD, and that was in 2010, if you can believe that. And now we're up to HD, which we've been up for HD for quite a while, but maybe we'll be talking 4K or 8K or who knows coming down the road. I will say that part of this that makes it a little unique is we're going to get the ability to customize an app. So when you go out right now on the website and you're watching this, for those who watch on Amazon, Roku or Apple TV, you can also watch on your phone, but you have to go through a couple of menus to find us. With this part of this project, we'll be able to make our own customizable app so people have direct access to the great programming at Fact TV. We are cutting down to 2 channels. That's part of why this is cheaper. In the years past, we've been over the $80,000-$90,000 for this. We're cutting down to 2 channels, which will be our community channel and our government channel. That is already ready to go as far as logo design. So we're just waiting to plug in this piece of equipment. And that is about the basics to this project.
Now, I read something, I thought somewhere within the package, this also provides some additional security as well with the new software upgrade, or am I correct?
Yeah, so working with Matt and making sure that we make Matt happy in the IT department. Obviously, these are computers, and these computers, when they get put in, are put in with a certain operating system and cannot be updated, generally speaking, given how this company does their product. So last time we got this, I think, and Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, but we might be in a Windows 7 machine or even earlier. So that poses that security risk because we can do only so many updates with the operating system. And as you know, computers are barely making it to 5 years now. So that is part of this. Will get some gained security because we'll be up to the latest operating system.
Very good. Thank you, Jeremy. Yes, Alder Wheeler, go ahead.
Jeremy, how long are the programs stored? Forever or?
Well, when I started back in 2010, that was a goal of ours to keep as many programs as possible. That is not the case. There is a retention schedule that the city has adopted. It goes with the state retention plan. So city meetings, and I'm just taking a stab at this. We can correct this if I'm wrong, but meetings are generally 1 year. When you're talking about court, the assessing one, and I'm drawing a blank on that one right at the moment, but some of those have to be kept for a lot longer. We store those in a different area. We also work with Matt on some storage as well. One of the things that we did adopt now 2 years ago is we started putting all of our meetings not only on our video on demand, but we move them over to YouTube because YouTube's free, and it allows us to put those meetings out there for a longer period of time, which is also a good backup for us. For a free product. So the short answer is depends for government meetings. For everything else, there is no lifetime span. One other thing that we've implemented in the last 5 years is working with the Historical Society and having them look over all of our programming, and they decide what they want to keep in case it is historical value to the city. So that way we're not just making the decision in-house, we're giving it somebody else to look at the said programming.
Okay, very good. Yes, Alder Gerhart, go ahead.
I just want to say for the record, I don't particularly want to be broadcast in 4K or 8K, so I think we can stick to standard definition on city meetings.
I'm okay with that. You know, that's just bigger file space for us. So yeah, we'll be okay with that.
All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move this to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next item, 6D. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-52-22, approving 2022 funding awards for the Healthy Neighborhoods Grant Program?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Wheeler. Who will be speaking to this evening? Do you know if?
Yep, so Wade Thompson is here. He'll give a very, very brief overview and then open it up to questions.
Oh, okay. Wade, you have the floor. I'm sorry I didn't see you.
Yep, no problem. I'll do a quick share screen here. And this is in your packet as well, but I just want to quickly run through some highlights of the grant program this year. Bear with me. So yeah, we basically had about $96,000 this year in our grant program. Or excuse me, that was a request for this year. We have about 98,000 or 99,000 to spend. So we can talk more about what that means. But generally speaking, both staff and the H&I committee made recommendations for all the applications that were submitted. So in table 1, you'll see how those break out into our 3 neighborhoods. And I do want to point out some applications cover multiple neighborhoods. So that's why you see a 17 number there total with the 8 applications. But again, I think generally speaking, the geographical breakout of our applications is pretty good. A lot of equal distribution. And then just quickly summing up the applications that we're recommending for approval. Again, both staff and the H&I committee. Quickly, Big Brothers Big Sisters, youth mentoring, Dear Diary, also youth mentoring, Try for Schools, also youth mentoring. In terms of adult education and workforce development, Latino Academy of Workforce Development, food security. In terms of a topic, we're looking at Badger Prairie Needs Network, and Boys and Girls Club. And then neighborhood and community building and engagement, we're looking at Leopold School, and we're looking at Little John's over in the Verona Road neighborhood. I do want to point out that a lot of these are repeat partners. We funded them in years past, so they're great, reputable organizations. We feel really good about recommending them for funding. And then last point I want to point out is if you look at, I just kind of ran through all the applications under their grant program focus categories. So you'll see the 4 categories here: youth mentoring, adult education, workforce development, food security, and then neighborhood building essentially. And you'll see kind of how the recommendations break out in terms of percentages for each one of those focus categories. And I think generally speaking, we see the most, the highest percentage of funding in youth mentoring. And I think that's a great sign, because again, this program is really about getting upstream, working with kids, developing those partnerships, those relationships, building strong communities. So again, I think the majority of funding being in that focus category is a really good sign. So with that, I can certainly take any questions or comments that the committee might have.
Did you touch upon the remaining portion, the remaining dollars that are outstanding? Is it just roll over?
Yeah, so we actually rolled over a fair amount this year. I think the budget allocation was 63,000, so we rolled over another 30 plus.
Yeah.
And that was basically some unused, unclaimed awards from previous years, largely due to COVID. Those groups just couldn't make those projects work. So that's why you see the increased amount. And then, yeah, assuming approval of this amount of 95,630, we would have, approximately 3,000 left over. Per our normal procedure, we would make a request at the end of this year to roll it over into our program for next year, and then council would make that decision as to whether or not that would happen or not. So, yeah.
Very good. Questions, discussion? All right. Hearing none. Thank you very much, Wade. Hearing no additional questions, place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next item, motion to approve Resolution R-53-22, 2021 through 2022 salt purchase.
I move approval.
All right, motion made by Alder Gerhart. And who is speaking to this?
I'll take this one.
Okay, very good. Go
So
ahead.
this resolution is coming a little bit out of order. So this was a contract that we had signed for the 2021 to 22 winter season, which is the one we're just wrapping up. But we did commit to purchasing a certain amount. So even though we didn't use it for the actual season, we are required to take that 400 tons of salt and we'll just use it the next season. So this pre-approval is to pay for that 400 tons that we had committed to, and it was all through the state bid, which is a much, much better price than what we could get on our own.
All right, questions, discussion? Hearing none, place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next item, 6F. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-57-22, approving the grant application and requirements for the 2022 Transportation Alternatives Program?
Move approval.
Okay. Motion made by Alder Wheeler. And who will speak to the,
So Phil Groupie is here. He has a brief
yeah,
introduction as well.
Phil, welcome, Phil. You have the floor.
All right, thanks, Alder Udall. This resolution is just the final piece of a grant application I submitted to the Wisconsin DOT in January for their Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP grant, to help expand a bike share system into Fitchburg over the next couple of years. B-Cycle, if you're not familiar with it, is a bike sharing system under the umbrella of Trek Bikes. It's a local company headquartered in Wisconsin. B-Cycle's been running a successful bike share system in Madison for several years, and Fitchburg is now working with B-Cycle and the Fitchburg Chamber to expand that system and bring a number of their electric bikes or e-bikes and docking stations to Fitchburg this year. So CETA has already budgeted $50,000 for that initial investment in a bike share system, and the Chamber and B-Cycle have so far secured an additional $45,000 from local sponsors who want to invest in this. That initial bike share investment we're considering to be phase one of an expansion of this B-Cycle into Fitchburg to create more of a multimodal transit effort. That phase one is starting with some of the commercial and tourism/hotel destinations around the city. This grant would help fund a phase two expansion into more residential areas, especially looking to focus on parts of districts 1 and 2, where we think there might be a greater need for expanded transit options, as well as getting stations out to some of our recreational trails, down to the civic campus, and so on. The final piece of that grant application is this approved and signed resolution, which I'm hoping to send to the DOT this week. Every indication I have is that they are looking to fund this program. They're really excited about it, about expanding this bike share system into Fitchburg. So this resolution is about approving the language of the grant, accepting what would be almost $300,000 in transit funds from federal funding. And then it commits us to, essentially we would be working with B-Cycle and Fitchburg to identify additional local sponsors. Right now, because sponsors haven't been identified, the language of the resolution is that Fitchburg would back the $105,000 additional investment needed in just kind of the upfront purchase cost of the bikes and the docking stations if no sponsors could be secured. But there has been a good amount of interest, so we're pretty confident that a lot of that would end up coming from additional sponsorships rather than city funds.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Phil. Are there questions from the committee? Yes, Alder Wheeler.
Phil, how short is B-Cycle from their goal?
Sorry, in terms of
The money that they wanted to raise from sponsorships.
So for the phase one, I'm not sure the exact dollar amount. They've got $95,000 in total secured for this phase one investment, $75,000 in year one. I believe, and I was hoping that Helen would be able to make this call, our B-Cycle representative, but she had another commitment. I believe they're looking for just $5,000 to $15,000 more for year one. Mike, I don't know if you know better than I do on that.
Right now, they've got 40,000 in private sector dollars secured or pledged to
Right,
match the 50,000 from CETA.
And we were looking for 50,000 for this phase one.
Correct.
They've got 40 of, okay. So we're looking for 10,000 more for phase one, then they can make this all as a single bulk purchase.
Thanks.
Additional questions? No, no additional questions. Thank you very much, Phil.
Yeah, thanks.
Then I will place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Let's see, where am I at on the agenda here? Moving on to item 6G. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-61-22, approving change order with CTW Corporation for well number 11, emergency repairs?
I move approval.
All right, motion made by Alder Gerhart, and Misty, who is speaking to this?
I'll take this one as well.
All right, very good.
So well 11 was one of our wells that had an instant drop to no capacity, which is a big problem, so we had to do some emergency repairs. The first round of emergency repairs was about $20,000 that we could approve administratively, but to get the actual well back up and running, we need an additional $50,000, $51,000 to do those emergency repairs. Again, this was an emergency. We need to make sure we have the water service in a redundant manner, but still taking forward the pre-approval so you are aware.
I'm pausing only because you needed additional $50,000?
Yep.
Has the work been done? I'm just looking for procedural. You do move forward with something of this nature, and then it comes back to us just as it is before us, correct?
Exactly. So I couldn't tell you for sure if the second phase has been done or not, but in general, we will try to get it to you as fast as we can. But in an emergency situation, yes, we get the job done and we come ask for permission afterwards.
Well, good. No, very good. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. All right, thank you. Additional discussion. Alder Gerhart.
Misty, you might not be able to answer this, but I'm just curious about the note about the fact that it's microbial growth because of stagnant water. Is this something that, has Bill mentioned that this is something that might happen in other wells, just given the nature of our growing city and some wells aren't being used to full capacity at this point in time?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I can look into that.
Okay.
Get back to you guys.
Thanks.
Additional questions? Discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to 6H. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-64-22, approval for refurbishment of 2 fire department water tenders?
I move approval.
Approval made by Alder Wheeler. And I suspect Chief Pulvermacher will speak to this resolution. Go ahead, you have the floor, Chief.
Yeah, so this is initially was the replacement of 2 water tenders. What we were able to identify is the cabs on both of our tenders were still in really good condition. These are typically trucks that are designed for over-the-road purposes, so can handle hundreds of thousands of miles, and we are nowhere close to that. There is something to be said about idle time and things like that, wear and tear over the course of time, but we have 2 vehicles that are still in really good condition and wanted to take advantage of refurbishment over replacement. So what it was initially a $750,000 expense, we're able to address that through a $500,000 expense. What you have in front of you is the request to be able to proceed with the second stage, actually, of refurbishment. We had to do some emergency repairs on the pump that came out of this account earlier, actually last month. We were able to make those repairs, but because it was all going to be refurbished as part of this purchase, this will be the second phase of that replacement. Third phase will likely come with the replacement of the radios in this vehicle. So basically, we put it out to bid. We were able to get 1 sole bidder, but we did solicit other Wisconsin companies, specifically Custom Fire Apparatus and U.S. Tanker. Both said that they were unable to provide a bid at this time. And that's consistent with what we're seeing throughout the industry. A number of these companies have limited workers or a worker shortage, so they're only able to bid so many projects, and without having those workers, we were going to be too far out as far as the replacement process. So what I have before you is that request. The other request is to be able to pay this in full in advance, and that's going to do two things. It'll give us a slight discount. I mean, we're only talking about $4,514, but more importantly, it's going to lock in that price. And with the supply chain shortages, I would rather lock in that price, and Pierce has been very good so far of honoring their quotes. So if we were able to address that in advance, it speaks to our ability to make sure that we're not spending any more when these vehicles are brought online, which is likely to be October for the first one and January for the second one. So we're looking at up to $347,354. Once again, second phase of the project, and then there's a couple of other things we'll have to do once we receive the vehicles back from the manufacturer, to include certain pieces of equipment, and like I said, the radios will have to be addressed. And I'll leave it at that in the case that there's any questions.
Very good, thank you. I will ask the committee if there's any questions, discussion. Alder Gerhart.
What exactly causes the wear and tear? Is it the high pressure nature of it? I'm just curious. Is it just things get old and
Yeah.
you have to replace them, or?
It's idle hours. It's typically the area that we use the vehicle the most, which is what I call the tank pump dump, which basically sees the most wear and tear, needs to be refurbished. We are going away from some of the mechanical systems and going to a more manual system to reduce the need, or reduce the potential for mechanical failure. And so some of those things are being refurbished or replaced. And that's where we're seeing most of this expense going, is in the rear of the vehicle, not in the cab. We are going to do some engine, just basic maintenance, preventive maintenance type issues, and then we'll replace all of the emergency lighting around the vehicle.
Thanks.
And I'm sorry to report that this is not available in an electric vehicle yet. Yet.
Is there additional questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to 6I, and before I go forward, this is the one that I would like Misty to speak to prior.
Yes, please.
All right, go ahead.
So staff is recommending that Finance Committee take the same action as Board of Public Works and postpone this for a meeting. The agreement has not been finalized, so we aren't ready to vote on it. So the best motion, if you agree, would be to postpone this to April 26th meeting.
Should I?
Yes, please do.
I move to postpone Resolution R6922 to the April 26th Finance Committee meeting.
67.
I'm sorry. I move to postpone Resolution R6722 to the April 26th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
So if there's discussion, you could have it, otherwise vote on the postponement.
Is there discussion, I guess is what I'm saying? No. No discussion, so we will place the motion before us then to postponement. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. All right. Moving on to item 6J. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-69-22, approving the consent to assignment of lease from Illuminated Holdings, Inc. to Shine Technologies, LLC?
I move approval.
All right, motion made by Alder Wheeler. And are you speaking to this, Misty?
I am. This may look a little familiar. We did something similar recently. So the TID incentive is actually with it's with the developer that built the Phoenix building. One of the requirements of that TID incentive is that Phoenix or something similar has a long-term lease that basically provides for them to be in that building. A while back, the Phoenix company asked us to change that lease from Phoenix to the parent company, Illuminated Holdings. Their internal issues, they have some debt covenants that became a problem with, so now they're asking us to change it from Illuminated Holdings to Shine Technologies, which is really a partner organization with Phoenix. So really no concerns. I consider this to be a housekeeping item.
Okay, very good. Questions or discussion from the committee? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. On to the next resolution, which is 6K. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R-70-22, ratifying the 2022 through 2024 collective bargaining agreement with Iaff, and this is a direct referral.
I move approval.
Approval made by Alder Gerhart. And are you speaking to this one as well, Misty?
I am. So IAFF is the firefighter union. We've come to an agreement on a contract. It has been ratified by the union at this point. Now we're bringing it forward for council approval. The red line version is in the packet. The biggest change of note is that effective 2023, which is the second year of the contract, the union will change from approximately 52-hour work week to a 48-hour work week. And then there's some changes, other additional changes in the contract. The other notable one is that the insurance, the health insurance and the life insurance for this particular union will become the same process or the same parameters as what the rest of the staff is. So it makes it more in line.
Very good. Questions, discussion from the committee? Seeing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next action item, which is 6I. No, I'm sorry, L. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-74-22, approving the First Amendment to the development agreement between the City of Fitchburg and Ochala Drive LLC? This is a direct referral.
I move approval.
All right, motion made by Alder Wheeler. And I'm guessing we have somebody online. Is that Mike? Mike Thorson, you have the floor.
Great, yes. I was available for questions, but effectively we are adding a line to the sentence at the request of the city in order to amend the TIF development agreement such that the funds from the TIF would allow us not to have to post a surety bond, which is very similar to what we did at our Terrace Point project. It was inadvertently left out of the original agreement. Nobody caught it, and we're asking you to amend it to reflect such.
Very good. Is there any discussion or questions from the committee? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mike. And moving on to item 7, announcements. The next meeting is scheduled for April 26, 2022. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Alder Gerhart. Discussion? Hearing none. Place it to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:15 p.m.